Celebrating Christmas in Australia, 1788 to today. Australia's first Christmas was observed on the 25th of December 1788, just 11 months after the arrival of the First Fleet. For those first European settlers, long accustomed to Christmases of winter cheer, frost, and even snow, celebrating the season in the heat of summer was a profound shift, one that set the stage for an entirely new and distinctly Australian festive tradition. In the early days of the colony, Christmas was a time of religious observance, marked by church services, baptisms and marriages. On Christmas Day 1810, the occasion took on added significance with the consecration of the newly rebuilt St. Philip's Church, part of the nation's oldest Anglican parish, in the heart of the settlement. From the 1820s, the season was reported with a greater sense of colour and gaiety. For example, in 1829, the children who had completed their annual exams were afterwards treated to, quote, mince pies and the merry-makings of the Christmas holidays. Adding even further color, the Christmas tradition of decorating homes and churches with greenery took on a distinctly Australian touch, with native flora becoming a new adornment. By the mid-1800s, colonials were still adjusting to the heat. On Christmas Day 1841, the temperature rose to a sweltering 40 degrees. Additionally, it had not rained at Christmas for the past 15 years. Despite this, the traditional lunch of roast beef and plum pudding continued. A watercolor produced in 1860 shows a telling festive scene. The tree was a native shrub, decorated with berries, foliage, and simple handmade ornaments. The gifts are few. Presents were symbolic rather than lavish in mid-19th century Australia. The iconic David Jones Christmas windows in Sydney began as traditional window dressing for the Christmas trade as early as 1884. Over the ensuing century, they evolved into themed, storybook-style spectacles featuring moving figures, puppetry and big annual narratives. The first Carols by Candlelight was founded by Victorian radio announcer Norman Banks and held in Melbourne's Alexandra Gardens in 1938. It drew about 10,000 people and kicked off a tradition that's now iconic nationwide. The tradition of store photos with Santa was introduced to Australia by the mid-1940s, with one of the first photos taken at Grace Brothers in Sydney, in 1946. This later became a standard seasonal feature as suburban shopping centres spread in the post-war decades. The New South Wales Rural Fire Service Christmas Lolly Bag Run dates back almost 70 years. The annual tradition, which sees Santa joined by firefighters in handing out lollies to children in residential streets, became widespread from the 1960s. Did you know that 2025 marked the 60th anniversary of the Lions Club Christmas fruitcakes tradition? This major fundraising project in Australia dates back to 1965, when the first cake, originally a £1 fruitcake, was introduced and began being sold annually by Lions clubs to raise money for community causes. The Dictionary of Sydney traces the Martin Place Christmas tree tradition to 1971, when the site was first converted into a pedestrian space, linking it to modern CBD Christmas spectacles. Forget the sleigh. In Australia, Santa has been arriving by every means imaginable, including surfboats. The earliest arrival by Santa, from the surf, dates to December 1974, at Sydney's Maroubra Beach. Much like that first Christmas Day at Sydney Cove back in 1788, today's Australian Christmas is a blend of old-world traditions, adapted to the southern summer. Families gather around barbecues, sharing steak, prawns, salads and trifle, while a roast beef and plum pudding still hold their place at the table.